welcome back to the Textile Talks. Textile Talks is a space where textiles are not just seen, but heard, where threads carry memory, labor, and quiet histories. It's a place for coming together to listen, to reflect, and to think with textiles across time and experience. Today's gathering brings us to a journey from roots to renewal. We begin with a presentation by Rituparna Basu. A big round of applause for her for being so generous with her time and with her scholarship. Associate Professor of History at Bijay Krishna Girls College, University of Kolkata, and a scholar of folk art histories and their changing meanings. Educated at Presidency College and the University of Kolkata, she holds a PhD in history on the rediscovery of folk arts and crafts of Bengal. She was a Fulbright Nehru Postdoctoral Fellow at the Philadelphia Museum of Art and a visiting scholar at the University of Pennsylvania. Her presentation traces a moment in Bengal when Kantha, once a domestic textile, came to be seen and collected as art, shaped by the growing cultural consciousness. Through the work of Gurusaday Dutt, she reflects on how these textiles and the women who stitched them move from the home into wider histories of recognition and livelihood. Post her presentation, which is approximately 30 minutes, we will be seeing a film. This is a documentary called Threads. We've had the permission from the production people who have made it in Bangladesh to show this film. This is directed by Kathy's Teluwork. The film stays close to the lives of women artisans in Bangladesh, showing how embroidery became a way to speak, to remember, and to sustain. Each stitch holds a story, each cloth carries a life. Through these journeys, the film reminds us that craft is not still, it moves, it adapts, it connects worlds. We are glad you're here this evening, and thank you all for being here for these textile talks. When the film comes, we have many of us here who will remember all the stalwarts of Bangladesh who we worked with, and our life being beyond borders, our work being beyond borders, we continue to celebrate this. Thank you once again, and a very good evening.
Can you put up this slide? Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's been a privilege to be here. Thank you, Darshan, for giving me this opportunity to present to you all. A work that I had originally done in 1999. The field work was done in 1999, and the basic ideas also came out of my dissertation, PhD dissertation, and subsequently my postdoctoral dissertation. So it's all a mix really, and of course it's a continuing study. So from roots to revival, a focus on Gurusaday Dutt and rehabilitation of women, it becomes all the more important because Gurusaday Museum at the moment is closed. Unfortunately, this central government has stopped funding it, and the state government has not taken up the funding, so it is closed to the public. And that was the largest private collection made in the colonial period of folk art and crafts. Subsequently, other museums and collections came up, but that was the pioneering largest collection. So here we go. Kantha, of course, is made from old saris and dhotis stitched together. So it was done by women in the house to reutilize the objects that are already lying there. And these are the places where kanthas actually were made. In undivided Bengal, in the old Bengal presidency, which included Bengal, Orissa, Bihar, and partly Assam. And of course, the present Bangladesh was united. I haven't given the map of Bangladesh as such, but I have given the picture of the Kantha, which is in Shunagaon Museum, which shows the map of Bangladesh and also expresses their national identity as is written in Bengali. I'll come to this later again. And that is the place in West Bengal where Kanthas are done. So in late 19th, early 20th century, the art lovers, art connoisseurs, they actually began to be attracted towards folk art as a kind of indigenous art to foster their national identity. So it was in this context of the Swadeshi movement when the art lovers and patriots and educators and politicians even began to turn towards folk art as a part of their living heritage, as a part of their national tradition. And therefore Kantha also began to be appreciated as a part of folk art. It was Gurusaday Dutt, who was an ICS officer and travelled in course of his work into the interiors of Bengal, visiting many villages, who was first inspired to collect folk art, songs, dances, to present before the urban public a sense of the living national heritage. And in this he was inspired by, to some extent, by Cecil Sharp of England, who had started the folk art movement in England while Gurusaday Dutt was there during his ICS training. Now, these were in 1999 when I did my field work, these were the Kantha makers. So once the art lovers recognized the value of Kantha as a national art tradition, they began to collect it and revive it. And the revival also was boosted by the fact that it provided a livelihood to the impoverished women at that time. One has to remember that the earliest Mahila Shamitis, which had started from 1916-17 onwards, intended to provide vocational education, basic health knowledge, and some kind of stitchcraft as a vocational education to get them empowered and to enable them to earn a livelihood. Now, when I went there, this was Mitadi's group in their house. The middle class educated women had also come up as entrepreneurs. So there were two levels. One, the educated entrepreneurs, and the other were the villagers who were poor and uneducated often, but who actually did the stitchcraft. Now, the entrepreneurs gave them the cloth, the thread, the stitch, the thread, cloth, needle designs, most importantly, and also provided the space. Often it was their own home where these village women used to come and do the work within a certain amount of time and get paid. So this became a major source of livelihood for them. This is in Shantiniketan, at Mitadi's house. Now, this is another aspect that the villagers could actually stay in their own home or go to their neighbor's house and do it. They did not have to go to any factory to produce a manufactured object. They could sit on the roof and have their children around them. So while they take care of their family, at the same time they could bring out some time to do this work. So that was one of the incentives to the village women to get into this kind of work. And here we see the child, and often they used to complain that they spilled the milk and therefore the cloth was wasted. What should we do about it? And the agents in between, of course, did not give them any relief, but that was part of the game. This is in Bolpur, and this was the house on top of which they were sitting actually. So this is part of the livelihood. This was their lifestyle, so they were not taking time off completely from their family work, but doing it in between. And Kantha, once people like Gurusaday Dutt began to look into it, they began to valorize it as a national tradition, but some of the values that were emitted were the fact that it was a utilitarian object, and it embodied thrift and economy because it was made of from objects which was already there in the house, and involved reutilization of clothes. And because the stitches ran through the entire length and breadth of the sari or dhoti, it provided a kind of tensile strength and a kind of softness. So it could be used as a child's diaper or a light wrap or a light blanket, and there are about 7 to 9 kinds of kantha actually that Gurusaday has identified, which I will come to later. And it was not just the simple running stitch, but there were other complicated integrated designs like the mandala or the circular design at the center with the 100-petal lotus, and then the kolka designs and the wish fulfilling tree on the 4 sides. So these were done to, many of these designs were done to conceal the attachments, and it became a canvas of the creative effort of the woman. So they were doing it domestically, and they were also doing it to express their creative thoughts and their artistic side. So the elaborate pictorial design produced a spectacular effect. And it was all taken from nature around them, from their lifestyle, and also from the terracotta temples, from the designs that were given to them, yes, but also from the terracotta temples, and some of them carried designs from as far back as the Indus Valley. The 100-petal lotuses can actually be found in the Indus Valley. And we know that weaving and stitchcraft had carried on. Mention of it is there in Rig Veda, in the Mauryan times, then in the Bharut Stupa at Ashutosh Museum. You can find in the Bharut Stupa railings these kind of floral designs. So there is a tradition, flow of these designs that come down from the earliest period of Indian temple making architecture down to the terracotta temples, which are visible to these village women. And the making of the Kantha also becomes then a form of self-expression and creativity for women. So it is a kind of me time for the women. At home they are, and it is not just done by poor women, it is done by the upper middle class women also, and it is a form of spending their own leisure time. So it is a part of leisure work where they can express themselves, their fantasies, their imagination, their memories, their love, joy, sense of care, everything. And another purpose was to gift a beautifully embroidered kantha to her daughter on her wedding. So that would show the love and joy of making it, and the fact that the daughter would remember the mother. And then the daughter would pass it on to her daughter when she got married, and then it would pass on for generations. And we have kathas which have been handed down over 6 generations and have been kept very nicely in the trunk and then brought out again. Similarly with the rice eating ceremony, once the child is born, the diapers are with the kathas are given. And Pika Ghosh has a book, and she actually told me that when the exhibition was held in Philadelphia, or even otherwise, Darian Mason also said when the exhibition was held recently with Stella Cramish's collection at Philadelphia, the overseas Indian diaspora visited it, and for them it was like the loving touch of their mother and grandmother. The feel was that of their mother and grandmother, giving them this love and care. So it was preserved as a family heirloom. And during partition, when many of the people came from Bangladesh to West Bengal, many of them in their desire to preserve it and the fact they could not do it at their home, actually gave these to Ashutosh Museum. So the first university museum, which was founded in 1937, was Ashutosh Museum in Calcutta, the first university museum of India, and that had a folk art gallery, and it comprised, a large part of it was comprised of the Kanthas. And finally we see, so from a domestic art, stitchcraft, from a sense of being handicraft, a utilitarian craft, a functional craft, it acquired a higher level because of its aesthetic value, because of its creative value. It began to be presented in exhibitions, and Gurusaday for the first time exhibited it in 1932 at the exhibition which was held in the Society of Oriental Art. And here, this was a fine art gallery where for the first time folk art was displayed, and along with potachitros and shoras and other folk art objects, kathas were also on display. So for the first time, katha became an object of art. It was appreciated as a folk art, but in a fine art gallery. So the fine and folk began to play along together. And he gave it a more specific term. He called it the race language of Bengali women. So this was like a very ethnic nationalist approach that Gurusaday was making. And in my thesis also I promote this, and for this I have been criticized a lot. Isn't it a very, very narrow approach? But then that is what Gurusaday stood for. He wanted the Bengali men who had become lazy and the Bengali regiment in the army which had been disbanded because it was said they were lazy, actually because they were very rebellious. That was the British reason, but underlying that That was the underlying reason, and because they were lazy. So Gurusaday said, oh my God, then I have to make these youth very, active, and that is why he started the Brotochari movement. The Brotochari was nothing but a movement of exercise to make the youth come alive and appreciate their tradition, their heritage, be proud of themselves and not just imitate the British. Because the Indian youth, educated youth in Calcutta were increasingly imitating the British, English medium, going to English medium school, and obviously you know of the movements that they went through. Presidency College, most of the elite boys were taking to Western ways and appreciating it, and the Hindu traditional background was being left. And Gurusaday said that no, they have to be aware of their own tradition, and they have to be aware of the huge, rich cultural heritage that lies in the villages. So according to him, this is a precious heritage, and of the Bengali women, a living heritage, and that people should be aware of it. Now we find a similar spirit actually in the Tagore house. Rabindranath Tagore, as early as 1904, just during the Swadeshi, when the Swadeshi movement was growing, in late 19th century he had already begun the agrarian reconstruction movements, and because he believed in kind of constructive Swadeshi. So the constructive Swadeshi was not the bomb and killing of the people, but to build something on your own. And he had already started the village reconstruction program. In 1904 at Bangla Sahitya Parishad, Rabindranath told the people at large, the students at large, go to the villages, find your own creative heritage and collect them and see them and study them and feel proud of it. So the urge to be aware of and be educated of the living heritage started with this brilliant lecture that he had given at the town hall in Bangla Sahitya Parishad. And he made his own collection, of course. Shelaidaho was part of his own zamindari, which is now in Bangladesh. And this is the wrap that he used to use, and it is now in Rabindra Bhavan. And you can see the Padolata on the border, and you can see the other floral designs along with the peacocks and the fish and all these other mokor and other animals, the tigers, everything which is part of the natural life of Bengal. Now this is a kind of Kantha, it's called the Dorokha Kantha, which where both sides are seen to be proper, and you can use any of the side. And this was in the collection of Ila Ghosh. Now in Shantiniketan, by this time Rabindranath had built up Shantiniketan Ashram and later on Vishwabharati as an educational center which would be an alternative to the British education system. So he also in 1920 started the Kala Bhavan and called Nandalal Ghosh over from the Government College of Art and Craft, where Abanindranath Tagore, his nephew, was teaching. He called his most brilliant student, Nandalal Ghosh, over to Shantiniketan. And since then, Nandalal, there was a tussle between Abanindranath and Rabindranath over sending Nandalal, because Abanindranath did not wish to lose his best student. But Nandalal came over nevertheless, and until 1966 he was there in Shantiniketan building up Kala Bhavan. At that time even Stella Cranbridge had come, and now we see that Stella Cranbridge was teaching Western art, Kitty Mohan Sen was teaching philosophy. So there was this entire genre of teachers who were initiating the students into their traditional values, traditional philosophies, and the traditional art system, along with a mixture of the Western principles of art and Western art system, which Stella Cranbridge had initiated. Then, of course, there was the Karu Shangho, which was started in 1930s by Nandalal and Prabhat Mohan Bandyopadhyay, to provide work to the students of Kala Bhavan so that they could make these saris and kanthas and sell them. And a lot of people, when they were traveling abroad, they were carrying these because they had this brand of Shantiniketan over there. It included batiks and kanthas and the designs. Regarding the designs, the traditional village designs of the kantha were kind of mixed with the Kala Kala Bhavan's art-educated students. And Gauri Bhanjo, Nandalal's daughter, Jamuna Rai, all of them took initiative in doing this. Shantidev Ghosh, who is the famous musician, composer, singer, his wife was Ila Ghosh, and she was the president of the Polli Karukari Kendro. And she also began to teach the village women, along with Shantidev Ghosh's sister, Shujata Mitra, who was drawn in, and they taught the village women, because many of the village women did not even know how to stitch. So they were taught how to stitch, they were given the designs, they were given the cloth, they were given the thread, and they produced works like this. This was the Doroka Kantha. You can find here the floral designs as well as the other kind. Now this is one of the best kanthas that Gurusaday Museum had. This was the central piece. It was made by Manada Sundari Devi, and this is the traditional form of kanthas. You know, the borders are taken from the sari, and you have a central mandala, which in this case you have the 100-petal lotus at the center, you have the kolka designs all around, and you have all these scenery which reflect things from more or less the terracotta, because the Portuguese soldiers, the dancing women, the Babu culture of Calcutta, all these are there because they are also part of the terracotta temple work. And this was done by Manada Sundari in a loving manner for her aged father, and that is written all around the kolka. You can see that, so that is actually inscribed. So this becomes a memento, and it is a branded memento, you can say. And this is a part of that previous one. I just focused on this because you can see a bit of the writing. And this is the figure of the Raiveshi dancer. So Brotacharis were also reviving Raiveshi, which is a war dance. Gurusaday was also doing that. So he was not just reviving songs and dances from the village life, but also the only war dance that the Bengalis had, and that was the Raiveshi dance. So this is the figure of the Raiveshi dancer, and the entire Kantha work had a sense of fantasy or of fun. You know, if it becomes very restricted, if it becomes a reproduction of the nature, then in a long time it kind of tends to decay. But in this, there is the sense of imagination is so alive that it gives you a sense of fun and play. And that is why people later from the West, they have called it child art, they have called it after in 1920 when Picasso held the modern art exhibition while looking into the African art, people also began to find similarities, because you will find elongation, minimalization, all these kinds of tactics of modern art have been produced over here. So you find that the figures are absolutely play-like, and some of it like that in the terracotta temple, but they are all themes that are in the villages. So these are the motives, and this is the Lep Kantha. The previous one was the Shujni Kantha. This is the Lep Kantha. You have the wish-fulfilling tree on the four sides. You have a mandala at the center, floral leaf designs, and birds, butterfly, tiger, elephant. But that one thing which is interesting is the elephant with the shadow. Now this motive has been replicated later on, I will show you, by other designers. So Gurusaday Museum actually preserved the collection of Gurusaday's Kanthas. He had written in his will, he had allotted the land for the Brotachari Gram, where Brotacharis will practice, and a part of it would have this Gurusaday Dutt Folk Art Museum, where his folk arts would be collected and preserved for the next generation to see. And in the 20th and 21st century, we find people visiting and actually copying this particular Kantha. This I will show. Okay, so the next kind of Kantha is Betan Kantha for covering utensils. You know, the most important thing about Khulna, Joshore and Faridpur were the main places from where he collected Kanthas, Gurusaday. And this you can pull up the center and it will fall in a in a tent-like manner, right? So you can actually pull up at the center. And here, if you see the figures of the elephant and the horses, they are very modernistic. They are not at all representative or even childlike. They have a completely different quality. And the themes are that of, the Vaishnav and the Rathojatras. So you have the Rathas, you have the horses, you have the elephants, their means of transportation. So the peacocks and other, and the central mandala and the 4 wish-fulfilling tree on the 4 sides. And the borders are, of course, again taken from the saris. The threads are taken from the old saris. So you have the chok taga, that is the design given over there. This is another Beton Kantha. This is also from Khulna. You find the mandala, the 4, on the 4 sides you have the Kolka design. It is said, Percy Brown said that this has been taken from the Persian art. The Kolkas have actually come from Persian art through the medieval times, the Mughal times, into our art. And you have all these animals, birds, reptiles, mohor, snake, everything that is found in the village life, including human figures. And all of these are made by Hindu women, both the upper class as well as those who work for them or in the villages. And that's the 100-petal lotus, and that is the design you also find in Indus Valley, one of the plates of Indus Valley. So the designs were also coming in from other places, and other art educators like Ajit Ghosh was taking, at that time by 1940s, the Journal of Art in Industry had begun to work. And this is a very common design in muslin, Dhaka muslin, and this has also come down from ancient times. You can find this design in Ajanta also, those things. And then this is the image of the Makara. Cunningham, who was the archaeologist, he took up this design, and from the Bharut Stupa. So you can see that there are multifarious sources from where the designs are being drawn, and then they are filtering down. Now this Kantha is a Beton Kantha from Joshore, but what is interesting is that this is more of a geometrical type of approach, and it is being done by the weaving caste, the weaver's caste. It is not just done by anyone, but people from the weaver's caste. That is why they have this geometric approach, and the dominant colors are red and blue, and you have the guards, the chok taga as the border, etc. Now this is the Rumal Kantha and the pillow cover. So there are 7 different kinds he had identified, Gurusaday Dutt. That is the Rumal. That is a very simple kind of Kantha with fish, but you still have the central mandala and the 4 wish-fulfilling tree on the sides. Fish is supposed to be the symbol of procreation, and it is very auspicious so these kind of kanthas are given in the rice-giving ceremonies or at weddings. And here you have the pillow cover, completely geometrical, using Kolka designs, and this is from Joshore. So this is a Rumal Kantha. What is interesting is the figure over there. As I was saying, the modern primitivism began to play a part since Picasso's 1920 exhibition in the West. And this figure symbolizes the kind of primitivism that was being valorized in the West. So naturally, this art now is no longer just a folk art. It is being looked upon as a kind of fine art. By the Western art collectors, and they too begin to collect Kantha. So as early as 1930s, 40s, they also begin to collect Kanthas, and you have this kind of combination. And so the Kalpavrikshas are there, wish-fulfilling tree, the central mandala, and figures like this. This is another Arshilota, which is the mirror wrap, and you have a central snake, and the chorki designs and the kolkas all around it. This is also from Khulna. This is the from Faridpur, and these are the Durjoni, which is for keeping money. Or in the villages, the huts are made of bamboos, and hay covers the ceiling, and they are on low-lying ground, and they are often flooded. So they hardly keep anything of precious value on the ground. It is always hung from above. So the Durjonis were hung from above, and they used to keep either their manuscripts or the will of their house or whatever. Old manuscripts were found from there. And here I must mention another collector, Dinesh Chandra Sen. If you go through his Brihad Bongo, you will find that the students of the Bengali department of Calcutta University were inspired in the 1930s, just when Stella Kamrish, Gurusaday Dutt, Joshimuddin were collecting folk arts. The students of the Bengali department under Dinesh Chandra Sen were also collecting old manuscripts and manuscript drawings and Kanthas. And the students of ancient Indian history department were collecting the works of art as well. So the Calcutta University was officially initiated the process of collecting the folk arts, which included Kanthas. This again we go back to Shantiniketan. From Calcutta we go back to Shantiniketan. This is Ila Ghosh's collection, who was the president of the Polli Karukari Kendra, and uneducated Muslim women were actually trained, and this is the work of a Muslim woman, because you can find no figure. You cannot find any human or animal figure. You find the star and the moon, you find the betel nut cutter, the wine sprinkler, the umbrella, everything, every other thing that is used in their lifestyle, but you cannot find any figure. But the floral designs are there. So this was her collection. This is from the Dhaka Museum, again a very simple Kantha, but it is given during the weddings and rice eating ceremony. You find the winnowing tray, you find the sun, you find the fish. All these are very auspicious symbols to be put on for welcoming a child, a baby. And this is a Kantha which I found in Abanindranath Tagore's house. He is the grandson of Abanindranath Tagore, and he actually put the Kantha at the center with mirrors, or not mirrors, glass on both sides. He made it into a furniture with glass on both sides and put it in between his drawing and dining room, so that you can see the Kantha both from the drawing room and the dining room, and whichever way you see it, it is right. You see, it's like the Doroka Kantha. And here you have a seamless mingling of the epics, Ramayana and Mahabharata. That is the central mandala, and that states that Shonamani Dasya of Sakin Kumarpur has done this. Now, this was brought to his house through an agent. So the fact that Kanthas were already being sold, bought and sold, becomes obvious. And it had started from the Jurashako Dokkhinai Baranda. There is a book called Dokkhinai Baranda. So from there, the folk artists used to come and sell Kanthas along with Patochitros and sing, and that had become a domain for buying folk art. And Abanindranath Tagore also came from Abanindranath from there. And here you have several, about 12 to 14 blocks, rectangular as well as square blocks, and each of them has themes from the Ramayana, Mahabharata, as well as the Puranas, as well as the Mangal Kavyas. So there is no historical time barrier. It moves seamlessly as they please, and you can find several themes all around it. I'm not going into that otherwise. This is one of the Puranic motifs where Brahma arises from Vishnu, reclining Vishnu. So, and then there is the lady worshipping the Shivalinga, and all these are there seamlessly, put on seamlessly. This is again worshipping the Shivalinga as the central motive, depicting the daily life. Here you have the palki, the palanquin. Here you have a man carrying the, these Rasgulla haris on both sides. So you have the coconut palms, and you have people doing their daily business in the village life depicted over here. This is one of the Gurusaday collection of a Muslim, done by a Muslim, and this is the only one where you have the figure. Strangely enough, it depicts the Ghazi cult, where the two tigers are fighting, and then Kalu Fakir is the figure who actually brings peace, mediates between them. This is part of the Ghazi cult story. It is in northern Bengal, so northern part of Bangladesh. So this is one of them. This is important because you have this writing, Amai Amay Jeno Bhulo Na, Rohima Khatun. So again, this is branded. This is an appeal, remember me, to remember me. And you have the flying fish over there, which portrays the need for a sense of belonging and remembrance, and that is of course passed on to the daughter and then on to the granddaughter. So writings are there. There is no human figure, but Rohima Khatun has written Amay Jeno Bhulo Na. And the fact that some of the women knew how to write. Okay, this is a Cramrish collection now in Philadelphia Museum of Art, and you can see how tightly everything is stitched. And this almost looks like a forest with all sorts of figures. Cramrish has actually taken the best of the Oriental Society of Art collection, and this is off the record, but that is what Abanindranath Tagore had told me. And this is a very, very artistic Kantha, where, I mean, here the art form is almost elevated to modern art. If you look at the figures carefully, the color itself, the figures, all these figures, all of them are very varied here. You have an elongation of forms, you have minimalization of forms, and they are set, juxtaposed in a manner where the colors come out and reflect the mind and the creativity of the person. This is also from Joshua, made by Kiroda Sundari Devi, which is inscribed on the reverse, and this is, as you can make out, from a weaver's cast work. Also a Cramrish collection. Since the date is mentioned, let me say that Cramrish had been for 30 years in Bengal. She had come to Shantiniketan, for 2 years she was there. Then Ashutosh Mukherjee picked her up from 1924 to 1950. She was in Calcutta University in the Ancient Indian Art department as an art historian. She was also in the trustee board of Ashutosh Museum, so a large part of the collection was made by her. And then, so she has a real contribution towards the folk art collection and the art collection in general of Bengal and of Calcutta University. Then in 1950, she moved to Philadelphia. And before that, she used to lecture at Coutard Institute in London, and she had taken 55 sculptures there. And those sculptures were transferred to Philadelphia Museum of Art, which probably ensured her invitation to go and be there, in charge of the Indian Gallery. So the Indian Gallery is replenished with several, her 55 sculptures that she had sent and several other collections, and it has her collection of Kantha as well. And in 1968, she made an exhibition. She had held several exhibitions there, but in 1968, an exhibition called Unknown India was organized, which was an exhibition of tribal and village arts from all of India. It included Bengal Kanthas as well. These are the Cramrish collection. I won't go into great details, made by the weaver caste. These are also the embroidered quills, and here you can see different forms, not the central mandala, but a central triangle with two wish-fulfilling tree and the elephants and horses on the two sides. These are the arshilata or mirror wraps that she had, and these show the windows and the domestic life as well. So these are the different kind, and there you can see the chariots or the rathas going. So the Vaishnav impact is also there. This is a Kantha with the Durga motif. So in the Kantha, that is interesting. This is also Philadelphia Museum of Kantha, Cramrish collection. In that same Kantha, you have this proverb written, Anitto Shongshar, Dekho Anitto Shorir, Sthir Nahir Hoy, Poddo Potre Nir, Hori Bol, Bolo Hori, Hori Name, Shotto Shongshar Anitto. So life is transient. It is like a drop of water on a lotus leaf. It can go away at any moment. So this was done by the lady, and it was sold by it was given to the owner, Sri Hiralal Bandopadhyay, which shows he was a Brahmin, and then he gave it. sold it or gave it to Stella Kramish. We do not know if it was sold. By the way, Kanthas were being sold because there was a shop in Newmarket where the old Kanthas were being sold. And I don't have the figure of that man over here now. It's in another presentation. But we have proof that in 1930s, 40s, Kanthas were being sold here as valuable traditional items. This is another linga in a Chala temple. This is actually in Bika Ghosh's book, so one can see it from there. So distinct examples of Hindu icons are there in Kanthas. This is also Cranbridge collection, Radha Krishna, and the scene of romance. This is the Noni Chor in Krishna stealing butter from Jashoda, Cranbridge collection. This is in Vishnupur. And you have actually the Vishnupur temple architectural structure behind, so that is also that. This is very interesting. You can see the joint figures, Kali Krishna actually. The meeting of the Shakti and the Bhakti forces in Bengal. So Gurushaday, one of the main theories of Gurushaday was that Bengal had a synthetic culture where the Shakti and the Bhakti integrated, and then you have Sufism integrating as well. And a clear example of that is this. And here you have the survival struggle for existence, between the peacocks and the snake, one eats the other. So that is also there. This is an interesting Kantha of a scandal which rose during that period, late post Elokeshi and Mohanto, and this is in Birla Academy. This is a huge Kantha. I have only taken up this piece. There are several other pieces which tells a lot of story, but I have never seen a woman drawing a picture. This was done by a woman drawing the picture of a woman's head being beheaded, woman being beheaded. So this kind of rupture or violence also finds space in Kantha. So the woman's Kantha is not just a platform for dream or a canvas for imagination and romance and desire and fantasy, but also reality, because at that time this incident had created a deep impression on the society. And you find bangles in Kalighat which represented Elokeshi's hair and all that. So these were silent forms of protest, but as Geraldine Forbes said, that nowhere did any woman protest in favor of Elokeshi, and Elokeshi is this 16-year-old girl, her head was cut off, so she did not get to say what really happened. So it was only Nobin, her husband, and the Mohanto who was sent ultimately to Andaman as a prisoner. The discourse was between those two, and the scandal that spread in radio, in jatras, in newspapers expanded all through, but Elokeshi did not have a say. So this is a question of the gender. Okay, this is Suraya Rahman. You have the film, so I'm not going to go into the Joshimuddin's poetry has been done by Suraya Rahman from Bangladesh. This again, the use is Goya Kashi Brindaban are nothing to me. A woman's existence is at her husband's feet. So you have again the opposite side over here. So various forms. This is from Bangladesh Sonargaon Museum. This you have seen. The writing was Amra Bangla Bash Kori, Amra Bangali Bash Kori Ei Tirthe Borodo Bonge, and it was done by Lady Amirul Nagar, 1972. So it is a clear indication of Bangladeshi identity. Yes. Now this is where. How much time do I have left? Okay.
Mind, right? The film is half an hour, so should we give another 5 minutes to this? Yeah.
Okay, so what happens is this collection that was gathering pace in the 1930s in the Tagore House with Gurusaday Dutt, in the Calcutta University with Dinesh Chandra Sen, Joshimuddin, or in the Government College of Art and Craft by people like Jamini Roy and others. So artists, art lovers, connoisseurs, educators, philosophers, Shriti Kumar Chattopadhyay and others, everybody was collecting Kanthas and folk art at that time as a kind of indigenous work of art which gave pride to our national heritage. Now, the other side of the story is that it provided empowerment to the women. It was not enough to collect and preserve Kantha, but Kantha had to be redone, or Kantha had to be continued. The craft had to survive and provide livelihood to the women. We have to remember in 1941-42 there was this famine which completely destroyed the families of Bengal, and many a woman were rendered destitute. And it was against this famine that that several societies came up, like Shita, not Ghosh actually, Chaudhuri. Shita Chaudhuri set up the Nari Seva Sangho in 1944. Fulrenu Guho, who was herself a political figure, set up the Karma Kutir in 1961, which is in Gol Park. Nari Seva Sangho is in Jadavpur, and it was mainly for the, in 1944, it was mainly for the destitute women after the famine of 1941-42. But with Gurusaday Dutt, his wife Sarojnolini had travelled with Gurusaday wherever he went, and she had built up the Mahila Samiti as early as 1913, and then all through the places she travelled, Palma, Birbhum, Sultanpur, Rampurhat, and she was also the secretary of the Council of Women, Bengal Presidency Women's Education League, and member of Calcutta Municipal Corporation. So a mighty figure, and very, very enterprising, very entrepreneurial. And in these Mahila Shamitis, they were given voluntary education, they were taught a basic stitchcraft, they were giving health, cleanliness ideas, etc. And then Arati Dutt took over the Saroj, and in 1925, when she passed away, Gurusaday set up the Sarojnolini Dutt Memorial Association. And Arati Dutt, his daughter-in-law, became the president. And that is still there near the Baliganj station today. So all these three institutes, Nari Seva Sangho, Karma Kutir, and Sarojnolini Dutt Memorial Association, were involved and engaged in providing livelihood and educating the women so that they can run their family and be educated. And voluntary education was also provided, and it became later on the state government also provided the voluntary education scheme to them. They came under that scheme, so it became a part of the state thing. Now this is by Karma Kutir, the present kind of work that is being done there. These are kids' diapers, so very simple because they tend to be spoiled. This is an interesting katha I found in one of my friends, Shomali Chatterjee's house. It is done only by adding the par, you know, the shadi par. So I had not seen a katha like this before. That's why I took the okay, so this is by Nilanjana Ghosh. She has passed away. She was the wife of the present film director Gautam Ghosh, and her mother Srilata Sarkar actually had graduated in 1970 from Kala Bhavan, and she started a group of rehabilitating refugee women in Calcutta, and this is part of their work, the Kantha work. These Kanthas are also from Nilanjana Ghosh's collection. Here you see different kind of worldly stitches coming in instead of mandala design worldly stitches. So these are the creative, changes. Yeah, Nilanjana is bringing in. This is again a very modernistic design in Nilanjana Ghosh's collection. This is the Lando car of the Babubidi culture. So this I found very interesting. Another thing is when she does the exhibition and she now puts it up for sale, Nilanjana Ghosh is inscribed in stitch. So you now have a branded. The folk itself does not have any branding. It's anonymous. But the Western art has a branding, like the art of Michelangelo or Leonardo da Vinci. So here now this object, Kantha, now gets a branding, Nilanjana Ghosh. Okay, so this you will see in the later. This is a design shop by Seema Art Gallery, who opens it in. These are coming up from 80s and late 90s. Over here you see these. So now this is again Seema Art Gallery. Now apart from the branding, you have a small leaflet over there, a small card which says when you buy this coverlet you have a precious piece of Bengal and you support a romantic tradition. So the pop-ups are given, they are kind of the old idea of Gurusaday Dutt, of Bengali nationalism, of heritage, of tradition. All these are in very few lines being brought forward so that today's buyers are inspired to buy it. It's not just a piece of cloth, it is something more. This is what I was talking about. Gurusaday Dutt's piece of Kantha, and this is the Seema, the worker who had done for Seema. You see that elephant figure and the shadow and this entire thing, that has been taken from there. So this Gurusaday Museum had been a repository of design in a sense. This is in Shamlu Dudeja's collection, who is another entrepreneur. She was a teacher of St. Xavier's in 1970s onwards. She started working with rehabilitation of refugee women. But this was done by Srilata Sarkar. So this is Srilata Sarkar's Kantha, which she bought in the 1970 exhibition held at Academy of Fine Arts, which Shamlu Dudeja had brought. This is Shamlu Dudeja's collection and the design she gave. So Jamni Roy's art is now being appropriated in the Kantha motif. So the nature of Kantha design is changing completely according to the designers. The designers are now becoming fine art graduates, school graduates. These are Shamlu Dudeja collection, different kinds of things. Kathas are coming into, this is Mohamaya Shikdar, another person. Now this is another interesting moment when the Kantha is actually being exhibited in Birla Academy as a art canvas. So these are like modern art canvases. These are huge in size, and the one at the complete end, that is like the traditional Kantha. Others are the designs given by her. And she has, Mohamaya Shikdar has started the Shivon Uddog, where motifs of Kantha, new motifs came in, like this. This is P. Mojumdar, a downtown shop on Rashbihari Avenue, and this is one of the achol of a sari, and you have the Shuroshunduris over there in Kantha state. So now Kantha enters from boutiques to absolute downtown market shops, well-known market shops, and it is open to the public, but the design variety remains. This is the Craft Council, which presented Rubipal Chaudhuri had started it, and Komala Kantha Center was started by her, and the Komala of Komala Kantha Center has also received a President's Award as one of the artisans, and this is a typical of a Gurusaday collection Kantha, and that had been copied actually, emulated by them. So again, that comes in. This is a small highlighting of the Craft Council Kanthas, which were sold at Academy of Fine Arts in 2008. And you can see the different colors of the owls, of the elephants. So this is again a fantasy, a fun world. And Gopan Rai in 1989 writes that it is because of this fantasy and the fun world and the play element in the Kantha that Kantha will always continue to survive. So this is one of its main attractions. And with this I will end, because this is the story of the tigers meeting each other, ready for a fight, and you have the tree of life at the center. So I think I will end there. Right?
Film, and then if anybody has any observations or questions, we'll open it up for all of you. We'll just first watch the film.
Okay, can I just open it?
Yes.
যে কাজটা আমরা শিখছি আর এতদিন ধরে 30 বছর ধরে কইরা খাইতেছি সেটাই আমার কাছে বড় পাওনা।
Her greatest contribution was introducing a style and a creative skill that was not there before. And she moved it on to a more sophisticated level.
I was creating and creating and creating. This was my destiny.
অবস্থা ভালো ছিল না, একটা ছেলে আছে, আমার সংসার ভালোভাবে চলবে না আমার স্বামীর ইনকামে, তখনই আমি ওই মেয়েটার কাছে শুই না আমি স্কিল ডেভেলপমেন্টে গেলাম।
Soraya Rahman was 50 when she co-founded a skill development project to help destitute mothers.
Soraya and I started the project from day one together, and she handled all the art part of it and the design part of it. She also recruited the women, so because she knew the kind of women that she wanted to work with. We had Hindu women, we had Buddhist women, we had Christian women, and we had Muslim women, and they all sat together and worked together. And how she offered them so much dignity and respect.
Maureen, hello, project director. আমাকে দিল প্রজেক্ট ডিজাইন, আমি ডিজাইনে বসলাম। সে ডিজাইন একের পর এক, মহরম থেকে লাঠি খেলা থেকে নৌকা বাইচ থেকে সব কিছু শুরু করলাম। আমি করেছি কখনকার, যখন আমি দেখেছি ছোটবেলায় সেই পৌষ মেলা করেছি, এখনকার পৌষ মেলা করিনি। ওগুলো নিয়ে বিক্রি করছেন, আর মুসলমানরা পিঠা তৈরি করছেন, বিক্রি করছেন।
Soraya was born in Calcutta in the early 1930s in British India. She was fascinated by books but had less than a year of formal schooling.
আমি তো পড়ালেখা করতাম না, শুনে অনেক কিছু শিখেছি। ভাই এসে আপনার জন কিটসের পোয়েট্রি ব্যাখ্যা করতো আর আমাকে শেখাতো, আর আমিও ব্যাখ্যা করতাম, ওর সাথে সাথে জন কিটসের রিসাইট করতাম।
Soraya's parents kept her out of school because they feared that she would become ill.
And the sisters died one after another in tuberculosis. That is why my chance was outside. Outside one can learn a lot, like a big book.
Soraya eagerly absorbed the images of her early life.
Tracing paper type কাগজে আপনার ইংলিশ ক্যালিওগ্রাফি ছিল, খুব সুন্দর। আর ওটাকে নিয়ে আমি দেখতাম আর শুনতাম। ল্যাম্প পোস্টে স্কেচ করতাম, বাবার ধোকা বাড়ির কাপড়ের উপরে স্কেচ করতাম। উনি বলতেন এত সুন্দর কে এঁকেছে, তখনই আমি আসতাম, আমি এঁকেছি, তখন ধরা পড়তাম। My father always bought me 1 rupee 11 annas, 1 paint box in each month from GC Laha. I always went there to buy brush and paint.
Soraya's chance to attend the Calcutta School of Art was crushed by political unrest. She was married at 17 years of age and moved with her husband from India to East Pakistan, which later became Bangladesh. Just after Bangladesh's independence, the young country was recovering from a bitter war and natural disasters. Many women and families struggled to survive. There were hardships, but there was also hope. Women began to revive traditions that were almost lost. One of these unique traditions was Kantha, a type of quilting where women recycle old saris and clothing. Women's voices and dreams came out in the stories they stitched on their kantha. Soraya reimagined this quilting as some of the finest tapestries in the world, art to hang on a wall.
It seemed as if the Kantha had been born again suddenly. So it was this sudden revival of Kantha that took me to Suraya Rahman. I went to Sonargaon and I saw a large wall hangings there. And I looked at one and I said, who designed this? And I was told that Suraya Rahman had designed that. And then I talked to her and I said, how did you design it? So she said, well, I was shown pictures of old Kanthas from the Philadelphia Museum of Art. And based on those Kanthas, I designed this Kantha.
আমি করেই যেতাম, একের পর এক করে যেতাম, মাথার ভিতরে কিটকিট করতো আর এঁকেই যেত।
So she took from poetry, she took from history and replicated them onto the silk. It was the kind of exquisite embroidery that's almost hard to believe that it's hand done by women.
আমার সেলাই ভালো দেখে খালাম আমার ওই যে স্পেশাল ফেসটা শিখেছি কিন্তু খালাম ভাই আমাকে
When Surya wanted to embroider people with faces, she found that everyone could not embroider the face. So of course she designed the whole Kantha, she even drew the face, the eyes, the mouth, everything. But she would give the face to be embroidered by some particular embroiderers whose work was just to embroider faces.
এটা বাড়িয়ে দেওয়া লাগবে আর এখানেও দেখো এখানে একটুখানি বাড়িয়ে দেওয়া লাগবে কানটা একটু বার করে এখান থেকে যেটা আমি করতাম না খুব সুন্দর হয়েছে এটা খুব না তবে ভালো হয়েছে ভালো হয়েছে না এদের কিছু জ্ঞানও এসে গেছে সেলাই করতে করতে আঁকার উপরে তোমার এই ব্লুটা মোটেই ভালো না এই ব্লুটা হলো মিডনাইট ব্লু মিডনাইট ব্লু হবে হ্যাঁ না না এটা মিডনাইট ব্লু হবে তুমি এই ব্লুটা খুলে দাও ও না এখন তো খুলতে পারবে না এখন খুলতে পারবে না
খালাম ওরে বাপরে যদি কোনো কাজ নিয়ে ভুল হইতো মানে ওনার মেজাজ ছিল অন্যরকম একদম ফেরন্দরে ফেকে ফেলাই দিত দূরে যে তোমার এইভাবে করতে বলছি এটা এরকম হয়েছে না কেন এরকম করলে কেন একদম ফেকে ফেলাই দিত
আমাদের যদি একবার রাগ করছে আরেকবার আমাদের অনেক আদর করছে তাই খালাম্মা খারাপ হলে তো জিনিসটা নিজে আর্টিস্ট ধরতে পারছে
Inspired by the poem Gypsy Wharf, Suraya illustrates scenes from the timeless story of star-crossed lovers. A Muslim boy and a Hindu girl fall in love, but are forbidden to marry. Their communities are at odds with each other. Realizing that they can never be together, the two lovers take poison and die. Seeing beyond the tragedy, Suraya shows their fate in a romantic way. Dulali cannot quite touch the lotus flower, and Shojan's boat slips away.
সুপ্রিয়া আবার ভিতরে নিয়ে গেল বললো যে দেখো এইসব কাজ তোমরা পারবে ট্রেনিং দিব অথবা গাড়ি ভাড়াও দিব তোমাদের আসা যাওয়ার যার যার ছোট ছোট বাচ্চা আছে ওই বাচ্চাগুলো ডেকে সেন্টার রাখতাম আমার 2 তলা 3 তলা সব মেয়েরা কাজ করতাম আর কি
The more they grew as craftspeople, the more their stature changed. They held their head up high. They developed a voice to speak for themselves and to speak for their other colleagues.
Like most of the women she trained, Soraya came to the Skill Development Project for a steady income.
নতুন বাড়িতে থাকছিলাম, বাবার বানানো বাড়িতে আরামে, এখানে এসে হঠাৎ কষ্ট। The marriage could not make me very happy. I had one love, that's my painting, and then my husband's duty.
Soraya's husband became bedridden and could not work.
When I came first over here from Calcutta, I thought that I will run away. But my daughter born, she made me very happy.
Annie, Soraya's first child, lifted her out of her suffering. Soraya tried many forms of art to support her growing family. She became known for her alpona, dolls, and scroll paintings.
অনেক বিদেশি আসে, এই বাড়ির ভিতটা করেছি স্ক্রোলের পয়সা। বাংলাদেশ হওয়ার পরে নকশি কাঁথা হাতে পেন্ট করে করেছি, পেন্ট ব্রাশ দিয়ে স্টিচ করেছি। কেউ বুঝতে পারে না যে এটা স্টিচ না পেন্ট ব্রাশ।
Soraya's ideas from her life's work went into the creation of her new Kantha art form.
অফিসে গেলাম পরের দিন, যাই দেখলাম যে গেট লক আর ওই গেটের সামনে ওইটা লেখা আছে যে কেউ ঢুকতে পারবে না এই অফিসে, কি সুরাইয়া রহমান এখানে ঢুকতে পারবে না।
Soraya wrote in a letter to a friend, "I was served with a termination letter from Maureen. She did not assign any reason. And so I'm going through a course which is quite painful and bearing it alone. All my designs are in her custody."
Maureen told me, I'm leaving now, so you also go away. I'm like, my God, my designs?
টাকা হয়তো বিদেশি দিছে ম্যাম সাহেব, কিন্তু খালামার আন্ডারে তো আমরা কাজ করতেছিলাম, কোন জায়গায় ভুল হইলো কি হইলো সবকিছু তো খালামা দেখো, কিন্তু এখন খালামা ছাড়া অফিস কি আমাদের চলবে? আবার যে জিজ্ঞেস করলাম,
I was nobody there. কি এমনি মশলা বাটার কাজ করতাম, না ঝাড়ু দেওয়ার কাজ করতাম, না ঘর মোছার কাজ করতাম, নাকি কিচ্ছু আমি কেউ ছিলাম না।
The Skill Development Project kept Soraya's designs and applied to copyright them.
যে এইটা খালামা বলছে যে আমি এটা বাসায় ডিজাইন করছি, তোমাদের এখানে করে নিয়ে। আর ওই ম্যাম সাহেব বলতো, তোমাকে আমি বেতন দিয়েছি, তুমি অফিসে বসে আমার ডিজাইন করছো, কিন্তু ডিজাইনটা খালামা বাসার থেকে শুরু করছে, অফিসে করছে, দুই জায়গায় করছে।
Soraya's daughter Annie came to help her with the copyright case that ran for years. After Soraya Soraya was let go from skill development, she wondered whether she should go back to her first love, painting.
তখন এই ঠিকানা নিয়ে আমি জায়গায় এসে খালাম্মারে বললাম যে আপনি আসছেন আমাকে তো কাজ করতে জায়গা ভালো লাগে না। তারপর আমি কি করবো, খালাম্মা বলবে কি করবো, তার আমি আপনি একটা কিছু করেন, আমাকে কিছু মেয়ে আপনার দেন, আমরা করি, আপনি পারবেন। এই খালাম্মা আমরা ধরার পরে এই যে খালাম্মা নিজেই এই জায়গা থেকে আস্তে আস্তে আপনাকে নিজেই শুরু করছে।
I told everyone that I will not allow the thread and needle in my house because I was so intoxicated with the smell of my own paint. But everything was changed.
She formed her own organization and called it Arshi, meaning mirror.
সবাই নিয়ে শিখাইতো, সুইটাতে বসাইতো সবাই, যেরকম যখন আমরা আসছি এভাবে অনেক মেয়েরা ছিল ওই জায়গায়, অন্তত 100 মেয়েরা ছিল, অনেক সবাই এভাবে ট্রেনিং দিয়ে দিয়ে শিখাইছে, নিজের হাতে ধরে ধরে সবাই শিখাইছে।
Hundreds of young women came to Soraya's home from city and faraway villages.
আমি যখন আসছি খালাম্মার এই জায়গায়, আমি অনেক মেয়ে নিয়ে আসছি সাথে, ছেলে মেয়ে ছোট ছোট আছে, এখন সংসারে দিক দিয়ে আমার অনেক কষ্ট আছে। পরে আমি সন্ধান পেলাম যে এই সেলাই কাজ ওই জায়গায় করে, ঈশ্বরাপার ঠিকানা নিয়ে পরে আমি ইরামপুরা আসলাম।
She trained the women. I mean, they came with some skills, but she had to work very hard to get them to do certain things that they'd never done before. And they became experts. I mean, they knew exactly what she had in mind and what she wanted done. And they reproduced them absolutely perfectly.
You have to be very close to them. অনেকে এসে বলে কি করছে সুরাইয়া, না ক্লোজ হলে এক্সচেঞ্জ অফ ভিউ হয়, শেখানো যায়, শিখতে পারে, বুঝলেন না? নীল আমি দিই না, না এখানে নীল দিইনি, পাওয়া যায় না তো এই কালারই দিতে, এইটাই দিতে, বুঝেছো না?
To provide work for the women and herself, Soraya used the designs that she had in her house while she fought for her rights at the Copyright Board. She changed some of the disputed designs slightly, and she created new ones.
And it was far more beautiful. I didn't see any court scene before, but in Raj, I did a perfect court scene with 2 lawyers.
To manage Arshi, Annie came to help Soraya. But one day, Soraya received a phone call that would turn her world upside down. Annie died when her sari accidentally caught fire.
মরে যাওয়ার পরে খালাম্মার মন তো অনেক খারাপ হয়ে গেছে, অনেক মেয়েটা চলে গেছে গা, নিত কালামা নিত ওরা তো স্বামী অসুস্থ আছিল সংসার ওষুধ পানি আর কত খরচ এইসবের লেগে কালামা বেশি অর্ডার নিত আমাদের জন্য নিত আর সংসারের জন্য নিত কালামারও ভালো হইতো আমাদেরও ভালো হইতো দোনো দিকে ভালো হইতো
Despite the shock of Annie's death, Soraya carried on. There were sales in homes, special commissions, and exhibitions in Bangladesh and Italy. The government of Bangladesh presented the art to dignitaries as state gifts, and the work of Soraya and the women spread around the world.
দেশের রহমানের নকশিকাতা এত সুন্দর এত নিখুঁত বিভিন্ন রাষ্ট্রতে দেখা যায় সম্মান করে সবাই যে নাম বলে এই জিনিসটা কালামা সবসময় নিজের সম্মানের নিজের কাজের ইডে সবসময় চিন্তা ভাবনা করতো যে তোমরা ভালো কাজ করবা তোমাদেরই থাকবা আমারও একটা নাম থাকবে
Maybe I missed my painting, I tell you. But I never regretted. রাশেদা ভালো করবে কারণ সে একটা রিক্সাওয়ালার বউ আর সে কাজ টাজ করে ছেলেকে যে অ্যাকাউন্টেন্ট করেছে আর সে একটা বড় কোম্পানিতে চাকরি করছে
আমি সবার অবস্থিত খারাপ আছি আমরা এই সিলাইকে বহুত কিছু করছি আর সব করলাম
ভার্সিটিতে পড়তেছে আর চাকরি করে দুই মেয়ে একটা কল সেন্টারে একটা স্কুল টিচার আর ছেলেও চাকরি করে একটা কোম্পানিতে আমরা তিনটা ছেলে মেয়ে নিয়ে এখন খুব ভালো আছি
আমি এই টাকা আস্তে আস্তে সেলাই করে ছেলে মেয়ের পড়াশোনা করে যেমন কিছু কিছু জমাইছি ব্যাংকে জমাই এই জায়গা এই টাকা জমাই আমি আবার 4 কাঠা জমি রাখছি ছেলে মেয়ে নিয়ে আমি ওই জায়গায় মানে ভালো আছি
After 25 years of creating art with needle and thread, Soraya handed off her vision and unique techniques to the Salesian sisters in Dhaka, who run an embroidery center for orphan girls.
আমি আশা রাখছি যে আপনারা পারবেন আর আমি কি করতাম এতগুলো মেয়েকে নিয়ে কেউ তো জানে না কিভাবে হচ্ছে
শুধু আমার সেলাই দিচ্ছি না আমার মহিলাদেরও আমি দিচ্ছি সব আমি দিচ্ছি আমি মরে গেলে যেন আমার স্মৃতি থাকে আমার এই পরিশ্রমের ফল যেন বৃথা না হয়
এটা যে ক্রিয়েট করবে সেই পারবে করছে সেই ওটাকে পারবে আমি বলি সম্ভব আছে যদি তারা করতে চায়
এটা উপরে দাঁড়াবে এখানে ভরাট বাকি এটা এখানে ঠিক আছে এটা ভরাট করবেন এই হুগলি সব সুতা দিবেন
আমার নাতিকে বলবো গাড়ি দিতে
আবার দেখা হবে ইনশাআল্লাহ। আবার
চেনগুলোকে একটা বাঁধতে হবে, এটাকে সঙ্গে সঙ্গে পাঠাতে হবে আমাদের। আজকে কালকে প্রোগ্রাম আছে সকালে, আজকে পাঠাতে হবে।
She selected the book. She said, don't give me Kantha, don't give me the Coomaraswamy, don't give me Partition, don't give me Textile, give me your book. Any questions that is any observations, comments, questions? Yeah.
Was it a common economy and the communist study was wrong, or because the court doesn't look like a Congress? No, there were several votes, so there was one common economy also. Yes. But it was written beside Kali Krishna, and then there was a common economy. In that same area? That's what I'm saying, that Quranic Jews and the Mongol Kambias, they all marched together. Yes. So I was very interested on the common economy.
Thank you so much. My time will be itself, but that will be very nice to serve you. Thank you for all of you for being here. Each one matters, and thank you for doing this at such short notice, and this has been wonderful. I think her presentation was so